She was also our special guest with us for the last year event. So I'm very honored to be here with you again this year. Let's recap a little bit for yesterday. If you watch our yesterday's live stream, we look at more about the vehicles on the rural area road. So we have a lot of simulations about the rural environment, about the larger size trucks, and also larger size animals. So as we give more tasks and challenges to driverless vehicles, so make sure they can function not only at the normal wide big roads, they also should get used to all different kinds of conditions of road. Yesterday we also rained a little bit, so that's bring more challenge to our vehicles, especially how they can deal with the special weather conditions. So for rainings actually bring more challenge to their transmitter. So we depend on how they function and how they calculate different factors. Let's back to today's topic. So for today, through our live stream, you can see right now we are at the expressway. So today we are do the simulation on expressway. So we're in front of the toll station. I believe that's also the first time we have this challenge race at the expressway, and I believe today is really a big task for all the participants. So we talk about like when they're entering to the expressway, whether they can enter on the highway and whether they can come through the toll station and they know how to go to the service area and do the fuel filling or electricity charging. So talk about we are entering the phase of driverless vehicles. So we can say that in the end, if these come to reality, we just enjoy ourselves, eating, drinking, enjoying the wheels, will let the car drive by itself. So I believe the context is almost to start. You can see right now everything is got to start. So I think the car right now is adjust itself. So you can see the steering wheel. It's turning left and right. And we can see in front of the car is the toll station at the expressway. So that's also the place we are standing right now. So we look at the stability of the cars, because at the expressway, the speed is really fast. So it depends on the cars whether they can run stably. And we all welcome our viewers to do the interaction with us. If you have any questions, please leave at your favorite social media platform. So that's also a good opportunity we can learn from each other. So from our live streaming, I believe on the left-hand side, there is the very hard large cars, that's the car for judges. So that the car will at the side with all the other participants. So they will do the live checking, and they whether all the cars are fulfilling the requirements and also align with our future development of driverless cars. So our requirement, first of all, there should be no personnel in the cars, or there should be no one to really control the car. But for the safety issues, we have one assistant personnel that sits in the car. They have a button on hand. If something goes wrong, they will press the button and let the car stop. So we consider a lot about the safety issues because we use the actual expressway. So we also block the whole expressway for the contest, make sure that we not bring potential risk to others. Talking about driverless cars, let's focus more on safety issues, right? for vehicles, because in the end, people drive it. So that should be the integration of a human being and the car. We don't want to bring the impact to human beings. And this is the judge's car. And this is the first car, the driverless car. So there's no human being inside. So it's driving smoothly and should pass the tow station. That's the test. Let's look at how it performs. I believe they're really nervous. All right, and the car stopped at the place where the car need to get the card. So right now, the related laws and regulations are not completed yet. So I believe for these kind of cars and do not have any opportunities to drive like this way. Normally, I believe right now the car right now is entering to the expressway, and we have another car following it. That's a new energy or renewable energy car from Beijing automatic companies. I believe right now they're driving very smoothly. Everything goes well. So we look at the entrance of tow station. There is another car just started the journey, and we have the judge's car accompany it. So for the safety consideration, so different two cars are entering at the tow station or the expressway at the different entrance. So like the two cars, they start the engine at the same time. So that brings more challenge to the cars. Why? So at the expressway, of course, the speed is really high. In case something happened, that'll be a huge danger. So that's have a higher requirement on car stability. So our real time, you cannot see just one car entering the whole expressway. The whole expressway is only belong to this car. So later on, if we think about the mass production, still in the end, the people control the cars. So we talk about the driverless. And compared to the normal cars, we talk about like in the future whether we should have a specific lane for driverless cars. Because in the end, their behaviors are different from our normal cars, which are controlled by human beings. So we think about like in the future, if at the same time, on the same expressways, both cars exist, drivers and driverless cars. We need to think about these issues. And right now we look at this car driving at really high speed. Yesterday we look at the cross-country cars. So they drive also in different styles. So today we'll focus more on car stability. And yesterday we'll look at the cars, whether they can function well at the different condition of surface. So we talk about the expressways. We have several tasks. So first is the start at the starting point. And second is the passing through the tow station. And there's also three tasks. One is we have a simulation of emergency areas. So we look at how cars can avoid the accident areas. And we also look at if the car is short of fuel or power, they should enter to the service area to filling themselves or charging themselves. So that's also the necessary task. And also that's the necessary missions that need to perform in the future if they're really on the road. So we talk about this year's challenge. Actually, the expressway context is newly added for this year. Last year we only had city block or talk about open road contest. So this year we bring more challenge to the cars in order to drive the whole industry to develop further. And that good things like we want to also through this kind of tongue test to find the potential issues and they can solve them. So right now we look at this car driving very smoothly. So we also look at the judge's requirement. So their requirement for the speed is around the 65 miles to 85 miles per hour. That's the requirement. So they have the cars for the speed, they have a requirement, especially on the expressway, they should have certain speed need to reach. A look at the radar sensor. It's turning all the time. So that helps to scan the surrounding areas. So that's 360-degree radar vision. So after scan all the environments, then that collect the data and transmit to the brain. There is a computer, so that's the brain of the car. So all the data will be processed, analyzed in the brain, and to take the necessary information, like say the obstacles. And there is a white circle at the back of the car that for positioning. It's kind of the GPS-like function. So the car understands where it is now and where it should go. So for GPS, we talk about that for the maps, that's the 2D or 3D. But for radar, it helps you to build up the whole picture surrounding the cars to let you know the whole environment. So the car can make holistic analysis. So radar give you the surrounding areas. Right now it's coupling with you, and the GPS basically tell you where you should go. So we discuss about the weather condition. Raining can be a big issue to the cars. So under this circumstance, let's say it's raining, then how that radar will be less function, right? Yes. So that's how the big issues, because they should do the reflection. So with that laser radar will be a little bit impacted. So we talk about the intelligence, which then we have the transmitters. The transmitter can help to do the environment analysis. Another is like there's say foggy days, or like big snowing, they cannot really see the road clearly. Then we can use the internet to tell the cars like what's the speed limitation for the road ahead, and whether there will be a tow station ahead or not. So in the future, the momentum will be the laser radar on the car plus the wireless transmitters on the road. These two will be combined. So we can tell the future's context will be adding that internet linked function as one of the tasks or the competition content. For right now, the transmitters on the car actually is quite expensive. It's really high cost, which means less commercial possibilities. We need to cut the cost in order to make mass production, to make sure like each car can be a remoting device, so it can collect the data and send the data to others. So like say the car, my brake not really function, so I should bring that information, send that data to the cars following me. That's kind of the functions need to add in. So expressways, we can see right now the journey is quite long. So the overall length, I believe, is more than 10 kilometers. So this kind of the context, I believe that's quite rare. We see some driverless cars running on the expressway, but we talk about this for the R&D. For the practice, we not really have a lot of opportunity to let the cars really run on the way. We see right now this really run along the center of the lane. So they have a quite high recognition function. Yesterday we talked about the cross-country context. So we talk about if without lane, how the car recognize the road to follow, to go along with. So right now for our country, we open wider to the cars. We right now will release the rules and regulations to give the license to the driverless cars. So make sure they are qualified to get on the road to do some tasks. So from the government, so just central government level, we are right now doing a lot of policy level works to make sure one day these kind of driverless cars can do their operation, can do their experiment on the real road for the real time. So there is a signal, I believe. So there's a indicator, let's say the sun pulse. So there is a camera will be captured, so that the camera actually in front of the car. So right now it's changed the lane. Right now it's entered to the faster speed lane. So I believe like our driverless vehicle development right now also entering to a fast traffic lane. So you can see at the very long distance that the car recognizes there is obstacles on the way. That is why he changed lanes. Talk about the laser radar. What's exactly the range that he can cover? I believe not really large areas. I believe maybe just around 100 meters. So for long distance, that will be depend a millimeter wave radar, but the things like the millimeter wave cannot really identify the size of the obstacles. So right now it should depend on different sensors, different receivers to tell the car what exactly in front of the car ahead the way. So we need to utilize the advantages of different devices. So I believe the car just passed the third task as the avoid of accident area. So this is the first car. I believe right now quite good. The performance quite solid. We know right now it's like the driverless car, but if like we not really tell others, I think our viewers cannot really tell whether it has a driver or not. So right now I believe entering to the service area. Talking about fuel filling. I should get either fuel or electricity. So under our R&D, so we depend on which energy. So for the driverless vehicles, we are more like to use the electricity charging car. So we are doing a lot of the modification on the electricity cars because that's easier to be modified. For the fuel-burning cars, it's a little bit difficult to change its original model to a driverless model. But you see the first car, actually the fuel charge or the fuel burning cars. It's not just say you add something in, it's not that easy. So that the ESP, EPS, everything should be changed. So right now is to the fuel filling action. So stopped really good. And that's within the squares. Okay, the car right now is leaving the gas station and entering to the service area. For laser rate actually can store a lot of data. So right now the vehicles, so the data it's transmitting is not big. So we talk about the requirements. Should think about how they can fulfill the requirement of sending large amount of data, because that's still the future trend. So that's also part of the hot debate right now, is that how we can use the very high speed, wider band to send information, to send data. So we talk about the frequency. The higher frequency of radar scanning, the larger amount of information it can send. So that's much higher amount of data sent than the millimeter radar. So we then think about the channel for data transmitting. So we think about the safety issue. How you guarantee the car drive safer is need to be react faster, especially react to the real-time situation. Talk about network. I say that we 1 minute or the 1 second, just 1 second later receive your text. It doesn't matter, but for cars, it's just 1 second late that can cause a huge issue. So right now we're doing the test and block the whole expressway, but in the end, in the future, for the real time, we do the mass production of this kind of cars, then that the cars will drive coexistence with all different other cars. Then that will be a lot of issues need to be taken into consideration. Right now, I believe heading off the highway also come to the end of the contest. Let's say whether can park at the destination. So we talk about today actually use different tools to do the live streaming and also get the footage. So we use the camera, different kind of cameras. We also use drones. So the drone flying up in the air, that's also the product or the output of intelligence. So we can see this car finished the whole journey, finished the whole context. I believe that's a very good start, very solid performance. Also give a lot of confidence to the cars following. So the 3 white dots, that will be the GPS. normally have 2 GPS on the car, at least 2. Then the car can identify the direction it's driving. If you only have 1 white dot or just 1 GPS, you only know your position. If you have 2 GPS, so you can know where you are heading, the direction you are heading. So it's like GPS on your phone. It's like at the very beginning when you open the app, you don't know right now you are facing to which direction. So it's like during the movement, I believe that more important is when you start the engine. For that moment, if you only have 1 GPS, you don't know where you are positioning to or heading to for which direction. So we talk about the precise GPS is one of it, and we also have our BeiDou for China. So the receivers, right now we can receive all different kinds of, like say GPS, BeiDou, and all can be received. And they can do leverage the advantages and do the calculation to get more precise information for the car to use. For the cars itself, need to know where, or let's say which lane you should drive along. But we should not just overload. We should not give too much. So for the data processing, it will be a large amount of data to be processed. So that will give more challenge to the brain of the car. So we are right now look back to the starting point. The second group, I believe, will be kick off soon to start their journey. So talking about the teams that participate this year will be a lot than last year. And we also see there are a lot of joint teams, home and abroad. So that's the contact also attract a lot of participants overseas. So this is the cars just finish the contest. So just tune in for our viewers. If you just tune in, I give you a recap of our first car. It just finished the contest. So today's event actually is give a great support from different kind of departments, firefighters, assistant cars, all different departments give us a big hand to make sure the contest can operate smoothly. For the whole context, especially for today, the expressway context, for the journey actually is quite long. That's basically a long duration challenge to our cars. And for the afternoon, we also have another live streaming. For this morning, the contest will be focused on expressway, and for this afternoon, we'll focus on city block, where we talk about the open road contest. So that'll be more the simulation of the scenarios that happen in the urban space. So right now you are watching a white car. I believe it's from Beijing United University. So right now it's entering to the gas station, and we also have a lot of staff here to provide safety guarantee. In the end, for the driverless cars entering to the gas station, you rarely to say this happen. Really rare. So in the future, maybe that's when the driverless cars enter into the gas station and you do not need a person to get off the car to make the car filled, or in the end, the cars itself can make everything. So just drive to the gas station and be filled automatically. So this car also performed really well. So finish all the required movement. So drive very carefully. But I think that's also the requirement for the speed, because right now within the service area, we talk about the human being drive the cars and has their own style or own way of driving the cars. Someone drive really aggressively, someone drive very carefully. But for the driverless cars, I believe they all have their personalities. So they have their way of driving. Some cars really want the high speed. Some car like this one, driving carefully. That's because of the way of computing, way of calculating. We are right now waiting the group 2 to start. We talk about cloud-linked internet. I also heard something in this regard. We talk about in the future, either high-speed way. We talk about we can give the control of the car to the expressway. So there will be a, let's say, master brand of highway. So that master brand control all the cars on the expressway. So we talk about we need to have the transmitters along the expressway. So all the cars' information will send to the control center. So the control center will guide the cars to say there will be a lot of traffic here, then we'll suggest cars to go other ways. So that's better to coordinate the traffic and has less traffic jam. So on my hand, there is a map for this morning's contest. This is the whole journey. So we start at here. This is a toll station. So the car should have passed the toll station and drive to the emergency area. So that's the second task. Should avoid obstacles, and they're entering to the service station, to the gas station to do the fuel filling. So stop and restart again, and then entering to the next contact. So the stop in front of the toll station and the park. Then that will be finished, the whole contest. So yesterday actually it's a 16th task, and today we only have 5 tasks. But I believe today actually quite challenging, because for this kind of cars, not really have any opportunities to do this kind of test. So we talk about we have less tasks, but have larger or the greater challenges to the cars, because for this kind of cars, for the R&D, for their basic lab works, they didn't have any opportunity to really do this real-time practice. And also because of the rules and the regulations, it's not allowed this kind of cars to do their experiments on the real-time expressway. Before the relevant governmental policies released, so they can do the test within the blocked road. So if they pass exam, then these kind of cars will be received a certificate issued by the government. So we can say if they can drive on the road. But the road is also different from expressways. So today is a really rare opportunity for these kind of cars to drive on the real-time, real high-speed ways. We're waiting the next group to start the competition. For this time, I believe the cars that participated, the contacts is more produced and developed domestically. We also have overseas teams. So actually we had a lot of new content added in. Last year we had just around 20 scenarios. This year we doubled. We have 41 scenarios. So we talk about the newly added in scenarios that also basically increase the challenge, because we gave them 1 year. I believe they can progress more. So that's for this year we give more challenge. So this afternoon, we have some scenarios. Let's say we shoot, let's say following the bus. That's for the city block contest. For different scenario, we have a different focus. Let's say the rural area, the road or the surface actually is different. And we also have some surprise coming out, like the animals. So let's have the big contacts and a big challenge to the cars to do the analysis and the calculation. And for the city block, so we have the elderly people and the children. They also need cars to have a good recognition ability, and also talk about the expressways. It's also different. So make sure everything we add in for all the scenarios to make sure the cars really can be close to the real-time operation on the car. Yes, they also invited guests from the Chinese Academy of Engineering. Talk about we need to make sure that from the governmental level, so we really think about the rules and the regulations. So if we want to allow them to operate or to do the experiment on the real road, they should be, of course, be okay or can guarantee their safety ahead. So we see a lot of cars lying up here. They're doing the final last minute check. We also see the viewers leave the message to us. So the driverless car is controlled by the computer. What about the virus? The virus will change the computer, and that virus maybe also in the end control the car. That would be really dangerous. So talk about the network safety. That's also one of the factors need to be think about. Before for the cars actually is the closed circuit, so that the car just manage itself is okay, but in the end that will be the open link. So we'll send the data to the others and also receive the data that's sent from others. So the talk about the network or the information safety, that's the key concerns and also the key focus paid by the car companies. So we will also play a short video that's a contact yesterday. That's a cross-country contest. So we talk about there is no signpost, no lane, how the car find their own way and travel along the way. So the car, we can tell, drove really smoothly. So yesterday we also had around 15 scenarios. So we had a starting lane, just talking about the turns. We talk about the winding road. And we also talk about like countering the tractors or the trucks. So we talk about the cars. They should be cut the speed to identify what is coming to them. So talking about driving at the rural area, there is no lane. So you need to make sure that you drive on your lane, and if some cars like driving from another direction, so you need to identify the car and make sure you're not clear with it. So you can see we have the uphills, downhills. So the car should first, of course, identify there is uphill in front, and to calculate and to give the decision. So need to identify the uphill. Then that should be the hills, or a wall is just a hill, or it's an obstacle. So for the driverless cars, that actually is a simulate human brain. So for human brain, also a process of learning. For the driverless industry, another hot topic is AI. Talk about the deep learning capability to make sure the cars also have that capability of learning. If, let's say, if you're a green hand or you're a rich experienced drivers, their behavior are totally different. Same for the cars. So for the cars, if receive a lot of training, then that car actually will be a really rich experienced cars. Then the behavior actually can be copied to other cars. And there is the talk about the puddles. So why we have this scenario? So right now the still is like the reflection. So that's we test the radar, we test the laser radar. So maybe the light reflects to other areas. So I believe there is need to depend whether that's a puddle or just a tire in front. So drive very slowly because it's also the time to precising the data and to do the identification, recognition, analysis, and decision. So that's the have the two puddles. You need to make sure we should to avoid the puddles. Some cars maybe just stop in front of puddles. Some just pass through the puddles. And this is we test the narrow roads. It's quite narrow. So for the radar to have a higher requirement on the accuracy of scanning. For driverless cars, I think that have more advantages than human being drive. Because for us, we also be impacted by the physiological issues. Like some people may be really scared that they go through that very, very narrow road. But for driverless cars, just depend on all the data. Right now, we are watching the footage from yesterday. That's the cross-country contest. And today, this morning, we are having the expressways contest. The cars are doing the final minute check and to arrange in order. This is the first time we had the expressway contest. And we this time also make sure that the two cars can start the contest at the same time. That also bring more challenge because each car, for their brain, for their calculation, they may use different styles. So different two style cars drive at the same time. We should look at how that will happen. Let's see how they perform. So these cars, I believe, they're also quite nervous, especially the cars, the people behind the cars. We are at the side road of the expressway. And they're under the preparation. And let's look at the footage from yesterday. That's the cross-country contest. So yesterday, we're also very honored to have you as our special guest. Okay, right now you're watching at the cars, they finished the contacts for this morning expressway. So the car right now is passing through the toll station. So it's like a simulation of getting the card. We talk about in the future when the cars pass through the expressway, then they just scan the plate. We have that E-plate. That's also the momentum for the future. So right now is entering to the main lane. You can see the steering wheel operating very smoothly. And also adjust the directions. From safety perspective, after mass production, and these kind of cars are allowed to drive on the expressway, so they can drive safer than human beings. Because for human beings, if you drive a long time on expressway, they'll be really tired because like the whole environment is not that changing a lot. So that's a bring more fatigue to the human being. But for driverless cars, no tire. So just driving tirelessly, just keep recognizing, analyzing, and making decisions. So to certain stands, to certain meanings that set human being free. If this kind of cars can really drive in the end safely on the expressways. And because between each cars, they will also be connected. They know exactly for the others what they are doing and what they will do. Right now, we only focus at the single driverless cars. We, in the future, may look at them as a whole to identify their group behavior. And we talk about human being and machine interaction. So if, let's say, we give everything to the computer, still in the end, we are a little bit worried. So we think about one human being control the car, and under what circumstance the human being will take the leadership. That's also another big topic. So right now we have one opinion saying that if a human being take the driver's seat, that will be send a signal, or that may send the interfere. So we talk about what kind of circumstance that the real risk or real danger happened. How to send the alarm. So we also see the questions from the expressway say there is no car on the expressway. Yes, for now, yes, we're doing our contacts. We need to make sure that the safety, that's our primary task. We need to guarantee everything safe. There's no car, yes, but for driverless cars, it is already a challenge. We also see the viewers talk about that for the driverless cars, still use computers. Then we talk about one day that a computer doesn't function. So where the computer crashed, what should do? So there is a backup circuit. Let's say that a circuit, we have at least 2 circuits loaded on the car. One circuit doesn't work, another, or the backup, will operate. So the cars have redundant design, and these two cars, I believe they are working on the final minute check. These two lying at the starting lines. So for yesterday's cross-country contest is also the single car. So this time we look at the two cars that will participate at the same time. The people that in yellow, that'll be our judges. So the judges holding the flag, he will be the one to say start. Then we talk about the we can drink. So right now it's like for the drivers can not really allowed to drink. But in the future, if the driverless cars, then the people like sitting in the car can drink. So we think about that in the future. We also need to depend on the laws and regulations. What kind of it's like the driving legally. So for us, it's like we drive like 1 hour. That's still really tired. If we have a driverless cars, like we can sleep in the morning, so the car will send us to the working area. So let's dream a little bit. In the future, in the scientific friction film, there's also a scenario like we talk about the cars flying up in the air. So that's the flying mode, of course, that can drive on the earth and fly in the air. In the future, that can be realized. It just can drive on the earth, in the air. So it's have the traffic jam, then we will fly over it. And also on the expressways, let's say, so we can halt a driverless car. So the car will pick me up, and it will basically input my destination, and the driverless car will send me to my destination. So like for the driverless cars, it's quite easy to realize because for us, it's very easy just like from the home to the working area or from the working area back home. So it can be easier task for the driverless car. So we can talk about that for the implementation. That can be the first stage. For driverless car, actually in Tianjin, we have some industrial park. I'd have these kind of cars to send the people from one position to the other. We have that practice. We have that service. We also had a video clip talking about how intelligence changed our life. And also this year, I believe that just happened last month in Tianjin port. There was a driverless electronic car truck. So that truck is also entering into this territory. I believe that driverless cars, we talk about the intelligence, already start to change our way of life. So that is also the purpose of our contact. We talk about how they can drive safely on the open roads and how they can do the interaction with other driverless cars. There are a lot of topics waiting us to be discussed and studied. I also hope all our viewers, if you're interested in these areas or you are very passionate to develop the driverless cars, we all welcome you. And also see the viewers saying that I'm really happy and I enjoy driving cars, so I like driving by myself. So we also talk about that because in the future, right, for the driver. That occupation may be replaced by intelligence. But that the happiness of driving will continue. Like the racing, like talk about the car racing context. Okay, let's say the second group already start their contest. The two cars start at the same time. And right now they are heading to the tow station. So some viewers think like, why this car drives so slowly? Because right now we are at the entrance of the toll station. You cannot drive fast. As long as the car entering to the expressway, they will speed up. So right now it's passing through the toll station. For this time, the contest will look at whether the car can finish the whole journey, and will also calculate the time. So the timing will be also calculated and in our consideration. So that's the two requirements we're looking at. So the first car right now is entering to the ramp, and the second car right now entering to the toll station. So the second car drive very slowly and smoothly, and the first car right now is entering to the main lane of the expressway. So driving at the ramp, I should also around 30 miles per hour. So at the different areas, the car should also adjust its own speed. So the car will also identify the signpost. Yes, the camera will capture the sign road, like anything colorful like the traffic light or the road signpost will be identified by the camera. So actually on the expressways, for the assisting driving system, actually they exist for quite a long time. We talk about that the cruise control, so the people will be really tired if always put their foot on the pedal. So we also identified the cars into 5 different categories. So that's L3. So that's the assistance at the level 3 and below. And right now we look at the L4 and the L5. Basically everything controlled and operated by computer. So no human being on the car. So in our daily life, like NEB, LKA, and ACC, and also the blind spot monitoring at AEB as well, all are supporting systems. So right now the speed is up. Drive quite fast. We also have questions from viewers. We talk about emergency. Emergency happened. So we have two actions. For the emergency button will be on the car. So we will press the button and the car will stop. And for each fleet, there's a team member and sitting at the cars with judges, and they will also have a button on their hand. If the emergency case happened, they will also press the button to let the car stop. So we have two buttons to make sure that there's no risk to human being. We can see the second car right now is passing the first car. So that's also the interesting part of the cars, that two cars start at the same time, and you can see that overtake it. So the judge cars also speed up, follow the cars. So the timing is also one of the characteristics for the contest. So they also want to save some time and reach the final destination earlier. So our driverless cars is not remoldable. Like they should depend by themselves to make the decision by themselves. So for overtaking behavior, so the first is do the scanning. So they scan the environment, say there's no lane changing behavior, then the car will say, okay, let's speed up, do the overtaking. If they recognize that the surrounding car has a, like say, the potential conduct of changing the lane, they will not really do the overtaking behavior. So I see the second car, we cannot see it. So the speed is really fast. And for today's weather actually also bring another challenge to the car. So I believe today is quite foggy. Foggy may impact a little bit to the laser radar. But I look at the lane. The lane today, all the lines are very clear. So the car is not really highly depend on single system. So they have multiple systems, they have multiple indicators and devices to help them. We talk about the cameras. Can identify the colorful objects, but they cannot really tell you the distance. Then what we should do? We have talk about two eyes cameras like human being. So we have two eyes cameras to identify the distance. And right now this car also changed the lane from the center lane to the fourth lane. So for the global brand, it depends on the transmitter, and some brands highly depend on the cameras. Some highly depend on the millimeter wave radar, and some highly depend on others. So it's very different. And talk about the whole car development. So from the supporting driving system, maybe is their starting point, and some companies working on develop the controlling system. And it also depends on where they put the transmitters on the car, whether that transmitter can scan the whole surrounding environment correctly and fully. So transmitter actually on the top of the car. But the car actually can block some wheels, some vision of the radars. So last year that happened, that the radars cannot really scan the whole environment. So they basically come to the curbside. So we look at this car, I believe that's the overtaking car. So that's the second car. I believe the speed is really fast. So it's a drive very smoothly at the very beginning, but in the end you can tell this is a really fast. Know exactly where you should speed up. So I think that's more similar like the human being behavior. It's like for the area like the toll station, of course you need to cut your speed, but when you enter into expressways, you are allowed to drive faster. So cars are small but drive really good. Our viewers may think about this quite boring, just one car drive like this all the time. But talk about is our real-time application for long distance tasks is so important. So this is one of the necessary parts to test the car's stability, especially when they will drive for the long distance. So we also do the duration test before the car really on the real-time road, and how they perform on the different kind of weather condition, different condition of the road surface. All these actually are necessary. That is why I'll bring the expressway contest into our this year's Congress, and also the whole journey is quite long. That's all, everything actually in the purpose. Very soon the car will enter into the gas station. And I believe group 3 already started. So this is group 3. Right now they're entering to the toll station. Very soon, passing our camera is the second car of group 3. They choose different lane. Actually, right now we can see there are 4 cars right now in our territory of contest. Of course, it will not really catch up the previous cars, but the good thing is like right now we can see 4 driverless cars entering the expressways and they running at the same time. So right now, I see coming to the gas station. For the group 3, when they just started, the group 2 passed the obstacle emergency area. We talk about for the driverless cars, we're quite worried before because for the driverless cars, they didn't have any opportunity to drive at the real-time expressways. And same for myself, actually, I really worry about whether a car will be really coming ahead to us. So we can see right now their stability is really good. And right now, slow the speed and entering to the gas station. For a human being, when we drive, at the ramp, we didn't slow down, or we just slow a very little bit. Talk about the driving speed. The limitation, there is a consideration behind, and also the requirement for the speed. So for driverless cars, they drive much safer compared to human being under the speed limitation. Let's say it can stop smoothly at the gas station for fuel filling, and there is a drone following it, or there's something popping out top the car. that's maybe a radar. We cannot really tell what it is. Slowly coming to the gas station. And stop at the third square. It's driving forward. So for the really complicated condition, and the car slowed down the speed, and for the really good road, the car drive really fast. This is quite smart. So that's maybe the light or maybe a radar. We cannot really tell. So right now he's leaving the gas station and got his fuel filled at the third place. So also choose by himself, right, where the car would like to go to get the fuel filled. So what kind of the gas, which type of the gas, gasoline will be filled, or is do the electronic charging or not. So it's depend on the data we collect. As long as the place we captured to say it was the first park at anything that is available to park, or that will say to park at like for the gas, or park at for the electricity. Talking about in the future, it's like we entering, or let's say we tell the car to say, go to the restaurant. Then that the driverless car will calculate and park you at the nearest place to your restaurant. That basically provide the service people-centered. We also have viewers ask about there's no cars at the expressways. Of course, they drive really smoothly, but that's really helpful or not. Actually, this kind of test is really helpful. You know, first of all, guarantee that no cars on the road, the driverless cars can drive or function really well by itself. Then it enter to the next step. Then if you just give the very complex task at the beginning, then how you can guarantee the safety of all surrounding people? We need to, of course, make sure no one be injured or impacted. Then we can bring more challenging tasks to the cars. Right now, we're watching at the cars that will be soon off the expressway. So people think this today is just a piece of cake. It's not. It's not like yesterday. Yesterday we see a lot of accident or the things happen. The car may just stopped, not really moving forward for the cross-country task. But today we see the car just drive very smoothly. Then just say, oh, today's an easy day. It's not. Because for driverless cars, they didn't have the opportunity to drive on the expressway. You cannot just give huge difficulties to the cars to let them get used to their first time driving on the expressways, and we can give more tasks, more challenges to them next year. We will also looking forward for next year's contest. So for this morning, we still have around 4 groups left. Right now, you are saying that the car is just passing the toll station. Right now, this car stop at the final destination. And this afternoon, we will also bring you another live streaming to bring you about the driverless cars, how they can perform at the city blocks. or the open roads. Like this context, we have like the roundabout. And we talk about for the human being like crossing the ways, whether the driverless cars will give ways to pedestrians. We look at the people like cycling, and we also do the simulation of, let's say, the bus station. If there's bus driving with the driverless cars, whether the cars can follow the buses. If can overtaking, whether they will overtake. At the congested areas, how the car will perform. That'll be all the highlights for this afternoon, and this comes to the end for our morning session. We welcome you to continue to see our live streaming, to see how driverless cars perform at the city blocks, at the urban area simulation. Thank you for watching. See you next time.